Good day, and welcome to another webisode of Futurecasting with Insular Life and Philippine Star. Early retirement is a dream of many, but what age or in what financial status would be the right time to stop working? On this webisode, we'll tackle that eternal question, am I too young for retirement? To ask about the right time to retire, with us is Bim Mercado, 42, an accomplished entrepreneur with 2 children. She is a UP Economics graduate and has an MBA from Ateneo de Manila. Currently, she manages her own consulting company called Consumer Insight, and she co-owns 2 Cartridge World branches. Bim, welcome to Futurecasting.
Thank you.
You know, Bim, you're a very successful professional. You're also an entrepreneur. You have your consultancy company. Why are you asking about retirement?
All right, that's a very good question.
All right.
And you know, when I look back over the years, and just to do a little life assessment, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not that old yet, but I'm also not that young. So one of my first questions really is, when is it the right time to just hang it all up and simply retire?
Has that thought been haunting you for the longest time?
Well, you know, I had a sort of early retirement when I quit from corporate life almost 9 years ago.
Okay.
I was employed for 14 years, and then I tried entrepreneurship, and I pursued my passion, which is training and teaching. But I didn't really fully retire because I was still working, and I felt that I still needed to work. All right. So I guess my next question would be, just like most parents my age who have children, how much do I need to save for me to, you know, to be confident that I will be able to support my kids until they're ready to support themselves?
That's great, Bim. You know, the beautiful thing about Futurecasting is every single person that I have interviewed, and they are very successful with what they do, they tend to project towards the future. And that's a very good thing. Now, what you just said seemed to validate my point, because in my seminars, I would always say, winners never retire, because you gotta have a financial plan in place, right? And maybe many years ago, that would work, but today, things are entirely different. Give me your thoughts on that.
Oh, I completely agree. One of the Filipino traits is that it's all right when I get old because my children will take care of me. So I'm trying to move away from that mindset, and I don't want to burden my kids supporting me when I grow old. So when I do retire, and I want to do it as soon as I can, I want to be self-sufficient. And at the same time, I still want to help my kids out.
That is so good. The 4 words that have been haunting me for the longest time is, don't grow old broke.
Okay, that's good. Very easy to remember.
And at the time when your kids are going to be setting their own family, having them obligated to take care of us, that's not entirely fair. Right. So it's very good to have a plan. And that's great. So you have a lot of questions in your mind, right? Right. Are there any other things that you would like clarified?
I'm just wondering, what are the differences of the retirement plans back in the day, you know, during the time of my parents, and the retirement plans now? Are they better off, or are we worse off? I just want to know the differences.
That's so much a valid question, because things have changed so much, right? And there are so many questions about retirement, but what we need to do is to get the right information and demystify retirement so that we can make the right decisions. And guess what? I've got a bonus for you. Because we have an expert whose competence is in that area, in the person of J.G. Hofileña. And he's going to be here, and he's going to shed light and give us ideas and information that can make us become more knowledgeable about that. So, are you ready to learn?
Yes, I'm excited.
Sir Jess, for coming here and guesting also in this show. You know, I was just saying that Beam is a very successful professional, entrepreneur, and she's got a very, very bright future, but she's also projecting towards the future. And she's got so many questions about retirement. And I was assuring her that we have an expert, and you may want to shed light on retirement so that we both can learn from.
Thank you, Francis, for this invitation, and thank you very much, Beam, for your interest in this particular subject. One of the things I think you asked, Francis, is when is it the right time to retire? Well, let's put it this way. I mean, retirement should be the most enjoyable of our life stages. But technically, that means that it also signals the end of your economic life, because true retirement, is simply that you stop working for a living.
Yes, yes.
And having said that, one has to be really, really very conscious and very concerned about being able to have enough retirement security financially. Interestingly, in the Philippines, the retirement model I can liken to a three-legged stool, and it's really in one of my slides over here. And the reason why I liken it to a three-legged stool is there are just three legs where your retirement security stands on. The first, we all know, is Social Security, whether SSS or GSIS.
Yes.
The second would be really a law in this country, Republic Act 7641, which is otherwise known as the retirement law.
Yes.
But when you consider these two sources of retirement funds, I guess we all agree that Social Security is not going to cover everything.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And even under the retirement law, there is a specific formula that may or may not also be able to provide you with enough. So you cannot do away with the third leg, which is in fact the only leg that you control, which is personal savings.
Savings, yeah.
So the advocacy that we promote is really for young people and for people to be very, very conscious about their need to participate in programming their own retirement. And you mentioned early retirement. That's actually a trend, a growing trend here in Asia.
That's where I am now.
And that's exactly where you're in now, Bim. And as you can see, except for Singapore.
As far as I know, I've got so many friends along that age bracket, they're still playing Candy Crush. They're not projecting towards the future. It's going to be very dangerous for them.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, retirement should really be the most enjoyable stage of your life, because that really represents the reward that you're giving yourself for a lifetime of sacrifice, hard work, and often, setting aside, your own plans, for the sake of other people. As That's one of the main ideas that needs to be communicated. That it really, retirement planning is not difficult or complicated. You just have to, first of all, be conscious about the need to start early. Especially because today, with low interest rates, it's going to take a longer time, for your savings to earn, a lot more. In your case, you're in your early 40s. You want to retire, perhaps when?
Maybe early to mid 50s.
Early to mid 50s, all right.
Which is still earlier than most, right?
So that's fine. That's fine. So the next thing you do, then make an assumption on what you think inflation rate and interest rates will be moving forward. The reason for that, as you know, inflation represents the increase in cost of living. So you've got to have some calculation about what that means, how prices are going to move between now and the time you retire. Interest rates are also important because that is how much your money will earn. So you've got to be able to make an educated guess as to what that may be. Then the third step is simply looking at your current monthly expenses. It's easier to do that. And adjust it appropriately for retirement needs. What I mean by that, Francis, is simply that you just don't assume that what you are spending today is what you and your spouse will need when you retire. Because there may be a number of things you will not need to spend in the future. For example, if you have a debt and you're paying off a debt, by the time you retire, that debt should have been
fully paid.
So you don't incur an expense for, let's say, loans. But what about an expense that you may not be incurring too much of now, like medical bills?
Medical, health.
For health maintenance and so on. As we grow older, that's going to become more and more important. So you basically go through this type of analysis until you feel that answer that question. And then once you've determined what that adjusted expense would be as if you retired today. Then you simply project that forward to the time if you want to retire in your mid-50s. Then the question really is, how much would that budget today be, let's say 10, 15 years from now? And normally you resort to a tool called a retirement calculator.
Okay.
Just taking into account inflation, the amount of savings you have, the expected or the assumed interest rate. And you can have a pretty, well, I would not say accurate computation, but something along a ballpark that at least is very, very rational.
In your experience, Jess, do you find a lot of Filipinos who are aware and practicing this already?
Unfortunately, Francis, I'd have to say no. And that's really the reason why this opportunity that you're giving Bim and I to talk about this is really very, very important.
Okay. So Bim has a good head start at her age right now.
And then you also asked about what's the difference between the retirement plans of the past. Cost of living was much, much lower. The peso was much stronger as a currency. And most of all, interest rates were quite high. Today, that situation has changed. And if we were to believe what some observers say, we are probably going to be in a very prolonged period of low interest rates. And so on. So the financial plans or programs for today for retirement funding would have to be a little bit more comprehensive.
Although that in itself is a major difference, didn't it? No?
Yes.
So it takes a lot more planning, a lot more knowledge, and a lot more intentionality into preparing for retirement.
Which is why today, Francis, Bim, there is one more difference. No? In the old days, back in the days of our parents, they could pretty much do it by themselves. Today, we actually suggest that don't do all of this by yourself. Take advantage of the services of professionals who are well-trained and knowledgeable in the field of personal wealth management and financial planning. And that is a profession that I think is not only emerging, I think it's going to be a growing profession as we move forward.
We got to get the right information from the right people. And Sir Jess, you have given us so many ideas, and you have shed light to what used to be a mysterious thing about retirement. But I love what you put into words kanina. You would want us to make retirement enjoyable, so it doesn't have to be miserable.
Right. It's something that we should look forward to, not want to avoid.
Well, thank you very much. In all the years that I've been around people who have made it to the top, there's one common factor. It seems even when they were still young, they saw what kind of future they wanted to have, and thus started on that road immediately. Whether it's saving money, living within their means, or investing, there was always action up front, thus producing positive results after. This is Francis Kong. Join me again in our next webisode.